John Harbaugh revealed Baltimore Ravens offensive line decisions and decisions that still have to be made with that unit. We talk about that. Mike Green and other rookies just cannot stop dominating at training camp, and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here today on this Wednesday midweek edition show, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Free and available for you on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We're 5 days per week here on Locked On Ravens, Monday through Friday, bringing you daily Ravens coverage and updates. Plus, we sometimes have bonus episodes on the weekend when the headlines permit. We go live not only after every single Ravens game for instant reactions, which we do, and after every single piece of Ravens big news, but we also now have Locked On Ravens watch-alongs during games. We're going to have that at 12 p.m. when the Ravens take on the Commanders in Week 3. Plus, we have the Locked On Ravens squad show with myself, former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail, and Sam Njoku. So if you want Ravens coverage, be sure to tune in here on Locked On Ravens. Today, another jam-packed episode. Roster decisions are at the forefront of everybody's mind right now. In the final part of the show, we're going to dive into some difficult ones that the Ravens are probably going to have to make in a couple weeks. In the second part of the show, we'll talk about some training camp updates from Tuesday. Mike Green just cannot stop dominating, and another defensive rookie is right there with him. So we'll talk about that. But in the first part of the show, John Harbaugh made it very clear some offensive line decisions and guys who are going to be starting on that line. Plus, he made some other things clear about the unit as a whole. Harbaugh's comments to the media on Tuesday very much essentially said, yes, the Ravens are going with the offensive line that we have seen that has been put out there, the 5 starters. It's officially kind of official here from John Harbaugh. So the offensive line, it's going to be Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, Andrew Voorhees at left guard, Tyler Linderbaum at center, Daniel Faalele at right guard, and Roger Rosengarten at right tackle. That's the 5. Again, the question that John Harbaugh was exactly asked, just to get into it, was from Jess Rebeck of The Athletic, are you pretty much settled with the offensive line that we've seen? Is that what we can expect for week 1? And John Harbaugh's answer was yes, absolutely. We'll be working on that. And then those guys' cohesiveness, then who the extra O-lineman is, and then how we will work the backup rotational spots and who's going to be active, those kind of things. Also, I'd say the 9 players are a little bit up in the air, in flux right now. I'd say we have the 5 starters now, but who are the 9 if we keep 9? Do we keep 10? It's hard to do, but we have 10 worthy guys for sure. Then the practice squad guys are all kind of up in the air right now. So again, this kind of ties into roster decisions, right? I mean, the Ravens have a bunch of them that they have to make here, but for me, I think with the offensive line in general, let's just talk about the starters first of all. This should be shocking to no one if you've been following along with the team, right? I mean, the Ravens, obviously, you had your 3 guys that were cemented with Tyler Linderbaum, Ronnie Stanley, and Roger Rosengarten. Obviously, no problem with any of those guys starting. Andrew Voorhees, that really seemed to be the only competition, because we'll get to with the right guard spot with Daniel Faalele. That never seemed like one. But Voorhees was the front runner in that competition. Never really felt like Ben Cleveland had a shot, because it never really feels like Ben Cleveland ever has a shot with the Ravens. John Harbaugh just clearly does not like him, and it is what it is. But at this point, like, I'm fine with Voorhees starting. I think he showed enough in the preseason. Like, I thought he showed some stuff last year starting too before Patrick McCarry took over his role. So that was really, I'm okay with him going out there and being the left guard. Right guard is the one that everybody is kind of like, okay, the heart's kind of pounding a little bit. Is this going to work? Is it not going to work? I think that for Daniel Faalele, first of all, it's just, it's the acceptance part of it for a lot of people. Like, yes, he is going to be the starting right guard. I think he looked better in that Cowboys game. Would have been concerning if he didn't, because in that Colts game, he did not look good whatsoever for the most part. Couple of good plays sprinkled in with a lot of bad in that Colts game. was a lot better against Dallas. I think at this point, you're just hoping that he can continue to work on his mobility, continue to work on play recognition. I thought we saw some of that play recognition against the Cowboys, going off of a block and picking up a blitzer, like those types of things. Now, Faalele is not going to be like the fastest offensive lineman on the field. And with the Ravens and being able to pull in the offense and getting to the second level, sealing off a guy, that's all really important. We saw at times last season, Daniel Faalele really struggle with that, where guys would just kind of shoot the gap on him and he didn't have, whether it was foot speed or just the ability to get over in time to block that guy. And it would be an easy path to either Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, or just the offensive backfield in general. Like, that's the type of stuff that Daniel Faalele has to work on. And the thing with this whole situation, and it kind of plays into what John Harbaugh said about the rest of the guys they're going to try to keep, because the starters are set. That's cemented. Those are the 5. But and I've said this, I said it yesterday, I've said it on the show a lot. You don't have a Patrick McCary to be able to say, oh, Daniel Faalele is struggling, or, this isn't the fit that we need right now. All right, Patrick, go in there, 1-for-1 replacement. You don't have that luxury anymore. Obviously, in this case, it would be Ben Cleveland, but that depth is a lot more dicey at the offensive line spot. So not only do you obviously hope that your 5 stay healthy, but you really hope that there's not a benching situation that has to happen, because I really don't feel very confident in the offensive line depth that they have. I feel obviously confident in Linderbaum, confident in Stanley. I'm confident in Rosengarten. I'm honestly pretty confident in Andrew Voorhees at this point. He was someone I identified during that pre-draft process before he tore up his knee. I thought it was a great use of draft capital to trade back into the draft and get him a couple years ago. And I think he's a really solid player. But I just think with Faalele, there's such high variance there. When he loses hard. Now, when he's able to stick on blocks, get on guys, get to the second level, do all those things correctly, which he does do. I'm not trying to come on here and just be like, Daniel Faalele never has made a good play in his career. That's just objectively false. He has. I'm not, on this show, my job is to accurately criticize and accurately praise people when they deserve it, right? So I'm not going to come on here and tell you Daniel Faalele is the perfect guard for them, because he's not. He's not. He also is not a guy that has never made a good play in his career. So I think that, to me, being able to have the stretches that we saw a little bit more later in the season as opposed to earlier on, and sometimes it just does take experience. The worry for me is that he had the offseason. He obviously worked very hard to try to get to a point with, his athleticism and his body and everything, that transformation. But then he put on film what he put on film in week 1. And obviously, yes, it did get better. But again, the Cowboys defensive line is not necessarily anything to scoff at. I know they were playing guys that are going to play for him, but the Cowboys defensive line is generally regarded as one of the worst units in the league when everybody's healthy. What about when you have to go against Cam Hayward, Derek Harmon, or Myles Garrett, on a stun on the inside? Can you work with that? Like, even a guy like TJ Watt coming on the inside with the Bengals. I mean, I guess that defense is bad, so you don't have to worry about that. I mean, there's no Geno Atkins or DJ Reader coming down on you, but if Hendrickson is there and he comes inside on a stunt, like, what are you going to do there? So that, to me, is the interesting part. But then you also look at the depth. Obviously, you have the 5. Harbaugh mentioned that 9 to 10 number. We'll get to it a little bit more in the final part of the show, but obviously Cleveland is involved in that. He'd be 6. Joe Noteboom is involved in that. He'd be 7. Corey Bullock is involved in that. He'd be 8. Nick Samek is involved in that. He'd probably be number 9. Garrett Dellinger is in that. He'd be number 10. Emory Jones, I'm not factoring him in because obviously he is injured. Darian Dalcour is another guy you could make an argument for. Like, he's someone that could make sense. Carson Vincent, right? He's in that top 9 probably too. Like, he's definitely in that top 9. So I think Harbaugh's probably going to have to choose between one of Samek and Dellinger. So let me redo my order quickly. Let me redo it. Cleveland, Noteboom, Vincent, Bullock is already 9. Those are your 4. So either you're cutting Dellinger or Samek, or you're cutting both. It is what it is. I think they should keep 10. I think having 10 is important. I'd be fine with them keeping one of Dellinger or Semick. I would not keep both. If they keep 9, I can understand it as well, because maybe you want an extra DB. Obviously, the Ravens have made it clear they're going to keep 4 running backs. At least that's what John Harbaugh said. So that maybe creates a crunch and you sacrifice the extra offensive lineman. I just know how important offensive line depth is. I wouldn't want to mess around with that. I wouldn't. So practice squad's important too. Like, you can obviously stash guys on there, but I'd probably keep the 10. I'd probably keep the 10. So the Ravens have some tough roster decisions. We'll get to that a little more in the final part of the show. But in the second part of the show, we'll get into some training camp updates from Tuesday. Mike Green is just all over the place. It's been a headline for us here. Seems like every other day or every day here on the show. So we'll talk about that. Aeneas Peebles also dominating, and some other news and notes from camp. So stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy's turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On Ravens are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. And one of my favorite features is the new Guillotine Leagues. They just dropped, and every week, the lowest scoring team is eliminated and the last one standing wins. Whether you're all in on something new where you like sticking to head-to-head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo's got you covered. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you here on this Wednesday edition of the show. Appreciate everybody again for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. We've built up so many amazing communities here on Locked On Ravens video forum. My goal is to hit 14,000 subscribers by the time the season starts. We are under 200 away from that goal, which is absolutely incredible. And in the audio side of things, we're looking to build that base up every single day. It's been incredible to watch that grow as well. So whether you are an audio listener, a video watcher, tell a friend, tell a family member. It truly does help out, and spread the word about the show. If you know somebody who wants some daily Ravens coverage, social media, you can follow me at ChaosStriker34, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm trying to get on as well. So if you want more Ravens updates, be sure to catch me over there. But let's talk about some training camp updates from Tuesday. And as Kadri Ismail, former Ravens receiver, likes to say when he comes on this show, Mike Green had a lot of plays. Again, it feels like we say this, like I mentioned right when we headed into our first break. It's like every other day we talk about Mike Green dominating. Every day it feels like, honestly, we talk about Mike Green dominating. So these updates here from training camp coming from Justin Robertson, again, at BaltimoreRavens.com, does a great job. Apparently, outside linebacker Mike Green, he is adept at dropping into coverage. He's shown that over the course of training camp, and it's something that the Ravens do ask their outside linebackers to do. Now, apparently, during practice on Tuesday, he had what would have been and could have been a pick 6 on Cooper Rush during 11 on 11. So he floated the ball, rushed it over to the flat. Green cut underneath Malik Cunningham for the takeaway. He also had a sack on Cooper Rush, and also he impressed during the one-on-one pass rushing drills. He beat Joe Noteboom while showcasing his bend and quickness. So that's a tough scene for Joe Noteboom. I'm not very confident in him being the backup tackle, but I guess it is what it is there. But it's just Mike Green has so much to his game. He is so refined as a pass rusher already. He has a pass rushing plan. We saw against Dallas, he's not only a 3-down player, he is a 4-down player. You just hear about him flashing, and it's not only the fact that he flashes, but he flashes without impacting the box score. And yes, obviously he's going to impact the box score. He hasn't had a sack yet in the preseason. Didn't have like a ton of tackles against Dallas or anything. He hasn't necessarily like popped off that way. But you just see on every single play how relentless he is, how he tries to make an impact in some way, even if he's not the one that's going to have the big tackle or the sack on the quarterback. He wants to make sure that he can free his teammates up, make something happen, chase a guy, make him uncomfortable. And like I've said many, many times, one of the things on Mike Green's scouting report is that his motor is so high and everything that he does is just like he's go, 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 go. Sometimes he can tire himself out. And that to me is like the ultimate form of the Ravens. That's playing like a Raven, in my opinion. Mike Green, he does that. And obviously, to me, I'm not expecting him to have like this 100% snap roll coming into the season. I still expect guys like Tavius Robinson, Odafe Owe, Kyle Van Noy to probably take the lion's share of those snaps. So Mike Green will certainly have a role early. And then as we see with the production, with the good snaps, Mike Green will probably earn more and more of a role. And then my bold prediction is that he will be the best Ravens pass rusher on the team by the time the season is over. So it just feels like every day, every other day, we get like another update. And it's something different too. Like, oh, hey, yesterday was a pick six. The day before he was getting a ton of pressure. The day before that, he was putting somebody on their butt. Like every single day, you get a new Mike Green update. And that's the type of player that he is. And that's the dominating factor that he shows. In the Ravens, they haven't had a player like that. Not that they haven't had good pass rushers come through, but they haven't had a player like that who truly shaped a different view for me in terms of what this edge rusher group can be. It's been a while. Mike Green was the only guy outside of Abdul Carter in that class that could have truly shaped. Because imagine, like, Kyle Van Noy, Odafe Owe, and Tavius Robinson as the top three. It's not bad. It's not a bad edge rusher room. But obviously, there is room for improvement. Mike Green has that star potential, and he literally flashes it every single day. So I love the Mike Green updates. I also love the Aeneas Peebles update. Peebles is also getting down to business. He was one of the standouts of Tuesday's practice. He went up against the first team offensive line. He wrapped up Justice Hill for a loss. He got a high five from Lamar Jackson on that play. And he also is acknowledging the fact that he's improved as a run defender. He said it's something that he's felt like it's a part of his game he's needed to improve. And over the last couple of weeks, he has done that. You know, obviously Dennis Johnson, who's the Ravens defensive line coach, he's taking note of Peebles, and he goes by Fub. That is what he goes by, teammates and coaching staff. He said, Dennis Johnson said, quote, Fub was one of the most explosive defensive linemen I've ever coached or evaluated on tape. He uses his explosiveness in the run and in the pass game, and he gets his hands on people quicker than they get his hands on him. In the run game, that helps him a lot. And he fell in the draft due to size. You know, he's not expected to be like this 3-down player at the NFL level, where he himself acknowledges, hey, if I can get better as a run defender, get on the field on early downs, it can help me improve my role and get a bigger role. Now, as a 3rd-down pass rush specialist early on in his career, I'm fine with that. You know, you're going to want guys like Travis Jones, Nnamdi Madubuike, John Jenkins is a big run stuffer. Like those are going to be the guys you probably want in those situations. But if Peebles can continue to show burst in getting his hands on guys and making sure that he gets the advantage over that offensive lineman, he could definitely carve himself out a role. And if you listen to my draft shows throughout the draft process and, you know, me evaluating players and kind of these mid-round, late-round selections, I was all on board for Peebles early in day 3. And during the draft process, every time the Ravens were on the clock, I was kind of saying, all right, Peebles time. Let's go. Peebles. They finally took him in the 6th round. He was one of my guys, and I loved it. Jay Higgins also was one of my guys, and he's someone that obviously has made an impact. I had him like 5th round for Baltimore in a bunch of my mock drafts. So kind of cool to have that be like I was saying, hey, these are guys, go get them in the mid rounds. And then the Ravens got them later than the mid rounds, and now they are contributing in a really big way. Now, other notes from practice. Lamar Jackson found Mark Andrews for a few chunk plays. One was a touchdown on a deep pass near the end of practice. Lamar also found Rashod Bateman. Now, this was over the head of Jay Higgins. So, and this is something, and why it's more so, why isn't it like ones on ones? Ravens are now kind of shifting to their preparation for the Bills. So it is more 1s on 3s, which that's more general. Like that is the status quo when it comes to preparing. You know, it's 1s, getting the 3s, and getting that competition. So Bateman had a long touchdown run on an end around, which was cool. Mark Andrews apparently led the way on that with a block, which was awesome. TJ Okoye, he ended up pushing back one of the backup offensive linemen several yards to win a rep. That's good news. He's obviously fighting for a roster spot or, auditioning maybe for a spot elsewhere if he doesn't make this roster. Rashod Ali did a nice job following blockers, cutting through traffic on a long run. He ended up juking his safety to reach the end zone on that play. Nate Wiggins tackled Keaton Mitchell in the backfield, which was nice. So good to see Nate in run support. We know he plays a lot bigger than his size. He's not afraid to get in there, mix it up. So that's right on brand for Nate. Tyler Loop, an update. He was 6 for 8 on kicks. He missed from 33 and 58 yards on the day. DeAndre Hopkins, he was back at practice, as was Jalen Davis. Hopkins he missed Monday's practice with a knee injury, but apparently he also left early, according to Cordell Woodland of 105.7 The Fan. So interesting to see if that was just part of the plan or something happened. Probably get updates on that. Jaire Alexander, Patrick Ricard, Kyle Van Noy, Chidobe Awuzie, and Dayton Wade, they all did not practice. So obviously, I guess Jaire Alexander watch continues as we kind of continue to wonder what is going on with Jaire. But John Harbaugh talked to the media yesterday and said that, or 2 days ago, and said that with his injury situation with Jaire. Now, honestly, if you listened to the show yesterday, you heard me play this clip from the Locked On Ravens squad show. Myself, Sam Njoku, Kadri Ismail, and Q obviously is an expert in sports performance, human movement, and injuries, and kind of identifying and evaluating how to best move forward with those. And so I asked you about that situation with Jaire. And so again, I played this on the show yesterday, but I want to play it again today because it is relevant to what we're talking about here with Jaire. So listen to this clip from Q because it gives a lot of insight into kind of what's going on or what we think is going on with Jaire with that knee. Q, is there anything with his injury history and kind of the past with the knee stuff? And I think, what was it, a PCL for him, I believe?
I say, so the PCL, the way they rehabbed it, the Packers, I think that was what his father's frustration was, is that they were trying to rush it. And the PCL is just like, you got to let that thing work its thing, work its magic. But if here I am, and I know, it rolls off my tongue, and I'm not trying to, I just care. Just let me just say it that way. But there are different ligaments and tendons, and there are certain ways you can go about the healing process to make sure that it is not a weakness, but rather a strength. That whole knee complex, I've had some really good results with some protocols through FSM. So, yeah, hopefully the Ravens are on top of it, and it won't be something that is a lingering issue.
And as I said on the show yesterday, there's no point in rushing Jaire back. Like, just let him heal up, let him get back, and you got to probably assume there's going to be some missed time here for him this season at some point, right? I'm not saying it's going to be because of this, but you want to assume that with guys that are injured so that you have options in case they actually do get injured. You hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. And I think with the Ravens and their depth, if Jaire has to miss some time, well, they have a lot of other talented players in that room. Coming up in the final part of the show, roster decisions are aplenty. We talked a little bit about it in the first part of the show with the offensive line, but the offensive line is far from the only tough decision the Ravens have to make with some of these guys. So stay tuned. Plenty to come here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And if you're tired of endless scrolling to try to find the best deal, Gametime zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you, and there are seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be. There is no guesswork involved with that, so you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Ravens have a lot of roster decisions they still have to make. We'll be diving into that on the final part of the show here on Wednesday on Locked On Ravens. Appreciate everybody again. It's been incredible here covering this team. 6 years of covering the team for Locked On was just a little over a week ago. So now we enter a new season, and hopefully by the time I'm talking on my 7-year anniversary, well, the Ravens will be Super Bowl champions. But they have a long way to go before they get there. And a lot of that has to do with cutting down to final 53 guys on the roster. Now, it's always like the Ravens always find themselves usually, right? Rare it doesn't happen this way, but usually they're in a good position and have really good problems to have. Now, good problems to have mean you have a lot of talent on your 90 man and there are too many talented players to keep. You don't want to be in a situation like I'd rather the Ravens, and I said this last year when we were kind of having these same conversations, I would rather the Ravens have 65 guys they feel like really can make this roster make an impact, and you have to cut down from those guys and make some really tough decisions, as opposed to having 40 guys you feel confident in. Like, I know it's always tough to move on from guys and expose them to waivers, and there's always that chance they get claimed. But the Ravens do a really good job of stacking up depth, obviously finding diamonds in the rough with some undrafted guys every year, it feels like, and they've built up that depth. They draft really well. They sign when they need to and make clear free agent additions that work for the most part. It's not perfect, but they get the job done there. And it always makes for tough cut down decisions. But that's a problem that the front office would rather have, as opposed to we have to scratch and claw to find all these guys. And man, we really don't feel good about these 5 guys. We have to put on the roster because we have nobody else. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to be in the situation the Ravens are usually in, and they find themselves there again this year with a lot of tough decisions they're going to have to make. Now, one of the positions I'm looking at that I think is going to be really intriguing is honestly that safety spot and the corner spot. Honestly, just the defensive back room in general. And Bo Braid is one of those guys where Ruben Larry to me has locked up a roster spot. I see no way that Ruben Larry ends up getting left off of this squad. He has just played too well in training camp. He's played too well in the preseason. He fits exactly what the Ravens want to do when it comes to forcing turnovers, being around the ball all the time. He to me is a lock on this roster. And that's big for him. An undrafted guy that has already made that type of an impact. He has certainly earned it. Now, for Bo Braid, he was playing behind Ruben Larry in this game. And if the Ravens, with their corner situation, and they're keeping Jalen Armour-Davis, and maybe they want to keep a Keon Martin. Like, Keon Martin's another guy that I feel like has a real shot to make this roster. Might not because of the crunch, but maybe it comes down to if they feel like Ruben Larry can be their third safety and they want to put him there, and they say, all right, we're keeping Keon Martin as an extra corner. Bo Braid, you're the odd man out. That's possible. And I love Bo Braid. I think Bo Braid's a baller, but that's just where the roster crunch comes in. And right now, I feel like Ruben Larry has earned that spot. And honestly, with Keon Martin, if he has a great game against the Commanders and Bo Braid's just kind of okay, that might seal the deal there. So that's one position I'm looking at. Obviously, linebackers, another one. I think Jay Higgins. I feel like the Ravens should keep 5 linebackers. Usually I do think it's 4. Like, that's usually where I am. I think Jay Higgins has just played well enough. And with the Ravens, you want to have this problem of having too many guys that you feel like can make an impact and really make the roster. But they do have to be careful, because I think this is a year, and we've seen it in the past, and I've said, oh, these guys are going to get claimed, and they don't. But I feel like it's different this season, where even like Darius Washington didn't get claimed off of waivers when the Ravens cut him a couple of years ago. But I feel like if they don't make the roster, Ruben Larry is definitely getting scooped up. And, again, I think he's a lock. But Keon Martin, Jay Higgins, Corey Bullock, if he doesn't make it, I think Bullock, again, like we talked about in the first part of the show, he to me is in that top 9, most definitely. Higgins is a guy, though, that I think can provide special teams value at least. And that's one of the ways that you make the roster. It is special teams and proving you can play there. Jake Hummel, who is another linebacker for the Ravens. They signed him from the Rams. Primarily special teams guy. He has a role in the league because of his special teams ability, at least the role that he has. So that to me is going to be big. Not really a ton. I mean, obviously, CJ Okoye is going to be the big one on the defensive line. I'm not sure he makes the roster right now. I really want him to, but keeping 6 defensive linemen does seem like a lot. Now, maybe you can do that if you move Adisa Isaac to IR. You keep David Ojabo as your 5th outside linebacker, so you're not keeping 6 of those and 6 defensive linemen. If it's 5 outside linebackers and 6 defensive linemen as opposed to 6 and 6, that makes it a little bit easier there. Not really a ton of situations on the offense like this. I mean, I guess the biggest question mark is, will Devin Leary stick as a third quarterback? Will they use the third quarterback rule this season? I don't know what their plan looks like there. Harbaugh's made it clear they're going to keep 4 running backs at the time that we're recording this. Obviously, he said that after last week, so not a lot to speculate there. I feel like it's going to be Rashod Ali. Although I will say I did like what Myles Gaskin brought to the table. So he's a guy that I'd be more than happy with the Ravens keeping. Wide receiver-wise, I think he got your 6. LeJohntay Wester kind of rounding out that 6th spot there. Tight ends, Charlie Kohler is going to be your 3rd guy. I mean, there's not really – I don't think they're going to keep 4 tight ends. That'd be pretty shocking. So, again, lots of roster decisions they have to make, and it'll all come into focus really after that final preseason game against the Commanders. We will be live during the game watching it for our watch-alongs, our live play-by-play reaction. We've had a ton of great responses to that through the first 2 weeks. It's our first year of doing it, so be sure you tune in for the live that we're going to have. Then, of course, we'll go right from the live into another live, instant reaction, then from the instant reaction right into the Ravens Squad show. So, again, it's like 5 hours, 6 hours of Ravens coverage straight for you here on Locked On Ravens on game days. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. On the way out, you should hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage. We'll be back here tomorrow talking more Ravens with you, so be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.